I would just like to start off my comments today by extending a very sincere and heartfelt note of gratitude to Public Knowledge, not only for bringing me here to speak with you about this very meaningful topic, but on a deeper note for curating this meaningful space for dialogue surrounding one of today's most pressing and unaddressed issues, children's online safety. Now, oftentimes, when we are discussing protecting kids online, we fall into this cyclical trap. We discuss how dangerous an unregulated digital environment is for children. We harp on the shortcomings of the industry, and we do all of this often without those most harmed even at the table. Now, I'm here to try to rework this narrative a bit, to bend this narrative towards empowerment rather than exploitation, remembering that those kids most harmed are the ones that are also most capable of building a more sustainable future that emboldens young users with the tools and the technologies to navigate the online world in a safe and secure manner. But before I jump into how we can go about empowering Gen Z to build a sustainable social media future, let me kind of tell you how I got here, standing in front of you, advocating for this digital change. Now, it all started when I was 12 years old. This was the age that I got my first social media account on Instagram, and this was the age that my entire life changed. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, the first few months being online and being hashtag Instagramless Emma no longer was really magical. I was able to connect and follow these celebrities that I had looked up to, engage in communities beyond what was offered in my small city of Birmingham, Alabama, and express myself in new and creative ways. However, this magic soon wore off, and what I was left with was the harsh reality of a system built for profit and not for my well-being. Like many Gen Z kids, what began with connection quickly turned into harm. And this was my digital experience as a 12-year-old girl, anxious, depressed, and constantly reminded of the body I didn't have, the hangouts that I wasn't invited to, and the like counts that I could not yet reach. And I wish I could say I experienced all this in isolation. It was just me. But sadly, this story is actually very, very common, as the sender had said before. My generation is what I consider to be big tech's guinea pigs, test subjects in one of the largest, most consequential social experiments that we did not sign up for. We logged on for connection, expression, and exploration, but what we faced was addiction, exploitation, and a slow unraveling of our humanity. No longer did all my friends and I run on the playground together, laughing until our faces were sore. No, now we sat on the benches and compared followers and took pictures to prove that we were cool enough to take up space. We were all just 12 years old. Now, after scrolling mindlessly for hours every day with a severely chronically online self-diagnosis, I reached a breaking point in the 9th grade. I remember the buzz of a notification, I remember my Pavlovian-like response to grab for my phone, and I remember finally asking myself between the buzz and the grab, what on earth was social media doing to me? How was I allowing myself to give up so much control, and what really was happening? Now, these questions snowballed, and all of a sudden I found myself deep in research about social media's impact on my generation, Gen Z. How it impacted our mental health, how it was rewiring and amplifying our need for social validation, and more profoundly, how it was completely remolding the human experience, for better and for worse. Now, all of my research led me to a few conclusions. First, I was not alone in feeling isolated, hopeless, and addicted to my digital feed. It was a shared experience across many in Gen Z. Second, there was a growing body of knowledge and data showcasing the negative effects of social media on youth mental health and well-being. But through all of this, what the most significant finding was actually what I could not find: the young people. The voices of those most harmed speaking up to tell their stories, to discuss their shared experiences, and to help work with other generations to craft the most meaningful solutions as a way forward. So I saw an issue, I devised a solution, and with my unjaded high school optimism, I jumped in to see how I could help. I launched an organization called the Log Off Movement my senior year in high school to raise awareness about social media's multifaceted impact on the younger generations. This was my attempt to get young people at the table, not just as passive victims, but as active participants in changing the digital status quo to be more supportive and protective of its young users. But very quickly I realized that for change to occur, legislators and policymakers had to be included in the conversation. So I went to DC and I'm back to testify about harms of the online world with the hope that legislators would hear my story and be moved to action as a means of protecting all those future 12-year-old girls and boys. Now, 5 years since launching Log Off, and 2 years since speaking in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, I find myself still advocating for the same exact changes. Safer design, less harmful content, less addictive features. However, now I have a deeper understanding of the magnitude of the issue we face and are discussing today. And I've broken it down into what I call the Big Five. The 5 greatest threats we face if we continue with the digital status quo. Those 5 are teen mental health, misinformation and disinformation, addiction and decreased attention span, the erosion of privacy and data exploitation, and social polarization. Now, these 5 issues impact millions and touch everything, but I've broken it down into 6 distinctly impacted categories of individuals: young people, teens, adults, young adults, parents, teachers, and brands and advertisers. These are our stakeholders. Note that for young children, by the age of 8, over 50% of children have their own tablets or smartphones. By the age of 12, when I got my first social media, more than 80% are on social media, despite age restrictions that are rarely enforced. Platforms even target young users with addictive content, shaping their behaviors before they even understand the risks. Next, we have teens that face the constant pressure to curate the perfect image, to be liked, to be followed, to be validated by strangers. The addictive pull of endless scrolling keeps them glued to their screens at the expense of sleep, school, and relationships. The algorithm-driven exposure to harmful content leads to body image distortion, to self-harm encouragement. Now, by the time that teens mature into young adults, they have experienced a decade or more of screen addiction, a fractured attention span, and a deeply ingrained dependence on digital validation. And all of this is only going to get worse with AI. Now, for parents, parental controls won't work. It's far too easy for kids to work around. Screen time limits, hard to enforce when school, social life, and entertainment are all online. Just wait until they're older. Well, that is not realistic when your entire peer group is already on social media. Next, we have teachers. Teachers face shrinking attention spans. Cheating has gone digital, making academic integrity harder to enforce, and teachers are forced to compete every single day with the alluring addictive pull of TikTok and other platforms. Lastly, we have brands and advertisers, often left out of this conversation. Despite no mental health risks, most major brands continue investing heavily in social media platforms, prioritizing profit over the health and safety of young people. Advertising dollars fuel the algorithms that promote harmful content, creating a direct link between brand spending and teen mental health impacts. While brands have leveraged to demand platform accountability, few are willing to sacrifice engagement metrics by pushing meaningful safety reforms. So if there's one thing that my Big Five and my Big Six stakeholders should illustrate, is not only the magnitude of the issue, but the consequential magnitude of getting this wrong, of not acting, of not building a better digital future for the next generation. But to me, the first step is actually quite simple. We must work together. We must work intergenerationally to create the path forward, partnering with youth orgs like these on the screen across the space to ensure well-thought-out, well-informed solutions are brought to the table. This is exactly what I'm doing at the Sustainable Media Center, where I'm the director of Gen Z Advocacy, bringing together voices of differing generations to harness the power of Gen Z to build a more sustainable digital future for all. And you might be wondering, what does a sustainable digital future even mean or look like? Well, to me, it means Activate Media, a project of SMC, where we listen to Gen Z to gain actionable learnings, design new social media models, and then build venture-funded outcomes. To me, it means proposing a way forward that honors rather than exploits social media audiences and invites them to be these essential partners in its reform. And look, as someone who has inhabited many roles in the tech advocacy space at LogOff, at Design for Us, etc., I have a deep understanding that no silver bullet exists. On the contrary, we must engage in advocacy on many different fronts, with legislation, youth mental health initiatives, digital literacy and no phones in the school movements, etc., etc. But our piece of the puzzle is Activate, a collaborative design incubator empowering young innovators to co-create and develop safer, more responsible social media platforms. We exist as a catalyst to facilitate change, to build a sustainable social media future, embedding Gen Z members as co-design partners to review, to iterate, and to approve projects, to fund up to 25 MVPs, and to test concepts with the Activate media community. We do all this through this innovative new framework that we call social intelligence. That basically just means centering empathy, ethics, and human values into how we build, use, and govern the tools that shape our lives. Now, at the end of this venture, what is the point of arrival? Well, we hope to have 150 high potential pitches, fund up to 25 MVPs, track and improve safety and wellness, and launch 3 to 5 transformative platforms, equipping the next generation with the platforms and the digital precedents built to ensure empowerment, engagement, and connection. But now, while I hope you leave today having remembered my story, my generation's frustrations, and the magnitude of the issue we face, what is most important to me is this takeaway. Change depends on a multitude of voices and efforts working together to spark change. For me and for my work, it's Activate Media. That's my piece of the puzzle. But for you, something else may fill that gap. The onus is on every single person in this room to think critically about their role in addressing the issue with integrity, creativity, and the boldness that this moment requires. The movement for change is here. The momentum is building. And the question is not whether change will happen. It's whether we'll rise to meet the moment with the courage that it demands. This is about the kind of digital society that Gen Z wants to build. This is about the values we choose to prioritize. This is about reclaiming our digital humanity. And I believe with every fiber of my being that we can create something better than what we have today. We have a lot of work to do, but we are ready, and Gen Z is ready to go. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to building this better digital future with you. Thank you.